Zhang Yi heard this and silently placed back the 2 guns in his hands into his alternate space. I was going to solve this problem in an ordinary way, but what I got in return was your arrogance. Okay, I won't pretend anymore. I'm going to be honest and show my hand. Smiling, Zhang Yi wasted no time activating his divine power in his right eye, and a perceptible blue light was already gathering. A breath of death instantly enveloped Yi's body. In that precise moment, Zhang Yi's eyes locked on him. A layer of sweat appeared on his back as a chill ran down his spine. He quickly used his shadow to move his body 300 meters away from Zhang Yi within a blink of an eye. But Zhang Yi's eyes easily followed his movements, and still effortlessly lock on his new position. He had a cooling time for his shadow exchange teleportation. Each time it's activated, it takes another 10 seconds to use it again. So within this time, he couldn't escape and was a sitting duck. Zhang Yi's right eye suddenly widened slightly, and in front of his vision, a huge cylindrical space instantly became distorted. The same huge cylindrical space distortion appeared right behind Yi after brushing past him. He stood there blankly, feeling like the god of death had just brushed past him. His blood turned cold, a bone-chilling cold. Zhang Yi looked at him and smiled mischievously. Do you want to continue? Silently, a huge hole was opened in the wall of the training ground. Designed specifically for training mutants, this heavy reinforced concrete was like a mud the moment it was penetrated, and a 3-meter circle passage was formed. Yi dropped to the floor with a thud, and he even forgot how to speak. But the idea of actually trying to challenge the person in front of him a few minutes ago felt like a joke. What a stupid decision. Only Deng Shintong had ever given him this kind of terrifying oppression and despair. That was an opponent he could never defeat. It's just that Zhang Yi and Deng Shintong are 2 completely opposite mutants. Deng Shintong was sort of an absolute attack, and Zhang Yi, on the other hand, maintains absolute defense first, and then attacks. But his attack rarely has meaningless attempts, and his first move was even a killing move. Using guns to play with them before was just teasing them. The air in the training field seemed to freeze for a moment, but this silence was broken by a loud laughter in the stands. Wu Di pointed at Yi with one hand, placed the other on Bailey Chongqing's arm and laughed. Like really laughed. Yi was a little puzzled, but soon he found that something was wrong. The coolness above his head did not seem to be a psychological effect. He subconsciously reached out to touch his head, but it felt very slippery. Part of his hair was shaved off by Zhang Yi's attack just now. Yi screamed in horror. He was a handsome man after all, and he had a lot of female fans in Blizzard City. Now Zhang Yi had shaved off part of his hair, which he cared about the most. How could he go out and meet people in the future? This farce ends here. Zhang Yi looked in Lu Yinghao's direction and called him over. Lu Yinghao flashed a nervous smile, and even saluted when he hurriedly rushed over. Captain Zhang, what do you want me to do? Zhang Yi was pleased with this attitude. Good. You've changed your mind pretty quickly. Take these 2 guys down to get treatment. Lu Yinghao got Zhang Yi's order and dared not delay. He went over to check Xue Miao's injuries while Yi sat on the ground with a look of despair on his face. Zhang Yi had no sympathy for them. From now on, you can quit the Tengu squad anytime you want. My decision will not change. Yi looked up at Zhang Yi. He opened his mouth to say something, but when he thought of what he had done, he couldn't say a word. It turned out that the clowns were actually them. Bailey Chongqing was still giving face, and came over and helped Yi up. Don't be too depressed, you are still very handsome. I know a doctor who is very good at treating hair loss. Then he sent the 3 of them off the training ground. At this time, the members of the Black Robe Squad looked at Zhang Yi in astonishment. The current Zhang Yi was much stronger than they knew at the beginning, especially with a defensive ability that was relatively close to absolute, and his attack ability seems to be also instantly invincible. Zhang Yi looked at them and said very bluntly, everyone knows that the formation of the Tengu squad is just a temporary team. After solving the problem of Eclipse Moon, the team will be disbanded. That's why those guys are so unscrupulous. But I want to tell you that as long as this team exists, I will be the captain. If anyone makes me unhappy, I will make that individual even more unhappy. The atmosphere at the scene became much more serious, and Zhang Yi has proved to them through Yi and his 2 companions that he was not someone to be trifled with. The Heavenly God team had already failed in the mission to conquer Eclipse Moon, and 8 people, including their captain, had died. I don't think you believe you are better than them. So if you don't want to die, you must face the problems we will encounter with the most serious attitude. Bailey Chongqing sent the 3 members of the former God Squad away and returned to the training ground. He nodded and stood straight in a standard military posture. Yes, Captain. We have already realized it. They have had this awareness since the first day they joined the investigation team. Moreover, the members of the investigation team have been changing all the time, and more than 90% of those who were eliminated died in a mission. Why can the investigation team enjoy high-level resource supplies? Simple, they paid for them with their lives. Zhang Yi nodded. It's best to have this awareness, but there is no need to sacrifice in vain. My ability is more defensive, and so is my personality. So, when fighting, I will try my best to protect everyone's lives. The time of action is unknown, and the action plan also needs to be determined according to the occasion when the Eclipse group appears. In this regard, Deputy Captain Bailey was an expert. Zhang Yi got off the training platform and approached Bailey Chongqing. There is no dispute that he was the deputy captain of the Tengu squad. Whether it's strength or popularity, everyone was convinced. In the next period of time, I hope you can strengthen the training of the team members and no slacking off in the slightest. Bailey Chongqing put his hands behind his back and responded loudly, agreeing wholeheartedly with their captain. In fact, in the past few months, their team's training had never been relaxed. Even if the senior management looked down on their understaffed team, they did not give up on themselves. They just patiently waited for this day, an opportunity to go back to the battlefield. Zhang Yi eventually closed the distance between himself and Bailey Chongqing. He placed a hand on his left shoulder and stated in a whisper, "As for the three of us, we need to take some private lessons." It was a bit strange to say this in public. As the captain, his basic combat quality in a team was definitely not as good as the members of the Black Robe team. And Yang Xinxin and Liang Yu were also lacking in this aspect. So, letting Bailey Chongqing give them special training would definitely allow them to gain something. Bailey Chongqing was stunned for a moment, before replying in a serious tone. "Of course, as you wish, Captain. It's just that the three of you can't train with the other team members. There is a big difference in training methods and intensity. I can train you guys individually, but it might affect the overall rhythm of the team on the battlefield. If the running in is not good, the subsequent group operations will definitely not be so tacit." In this regard, Zhang Yi was relatively calm. "It's not a big problem, you just need to help us train well." He didn't expect to have the combat quality of a professional soldier in a short period of time. It's better to improve a little. "By the way, there is also one more thing that I need your help with," Zhang Yi whispered in Bailey Chongqing's ear. Whatever Zhang Yi said surprised Bailey Chongqing a little, but he quickly recovered and nodded slightly. He turned towards the members of the Black Robe squad and stated calmly, "You guys go for your daily training first. The captain and I have something to do, so we will leave after a while." Although Wu Di and the others didn't know what they were doing and was a bit curious, they naturally have to obey their vice-captain's orders. As the group waited for the martial arts field preparation, Zhang Yi, again, placed a hand on Bailey Chongqing's left shoulder and thanked his vice-captain for his hard work. Bailey Chongqing glanced at Liang Yu, then back at Zhang Yi with a smile. "It doesn't matter. We will all be teammates in the future, so it's always right to help each other." Zhang Yi agreed and left the martial arts field with Yang Xinxin, deciding to watch the match from the second floor. As the captain of an investigation team, he now had the authority to apply for the opening of the martial arts field. The entire place was soon transformed into a huge area with a radius of 5 kilometers. Bailey Chongqing and Liang Yu were the protagonists of this martial arts performance. And to judge Liang Yu's current strength, the two immediately engaged in a fierce duel. But since it wasn't a fight to the death, their weapons of choice were both blunt instruments without sharp edges. Liang Yu chose a blunt knife and Bailey Chongqing's weapon was a wooden long stick. Opening her momentarily closed eyes, Liang Yu launched the first attack with an amazing momentum that spreads out from her to the entire field. But Bailey Chongqing effortlessly swept the attack with his long stick, and counters with an attack of his own, matching Liang Yu's momentum with a powerful strike when she made a block. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin watched them very carefully. The battle below was a battle between top-level enhanced mutants. And just as Zhang Yi was concentrating on observing, his device suddenly received information provided by the martial arts field. Zhang Yi chose to receive it out of curiosity. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed with surprise when a blue screen appeared in front of him, showing the data analysis of the two combatants. Yang Xinxin also curiously leaned over and looked at the data analysis of Liang Yu and Bailey Chongqing. There were the portraits of the two people and detailed analysis of their various abilities. Liang Yu was an enhancement ability user with a long wooden sword as a weapon of choice. Her speed and strength were first A-tier or A1 for short, and skill was a first S-tier or S1, with an ability index of 6,800 points. Bailey Chongqing was also an enhancement ability user with a long wooden stick as a weapon of choice. His speed was first A-tier, but both his strength and skill was a second A-tier. and his ability index was 7,200 points. The above were basic data, and there were many complex analysis data that are not enough to be listed one by one. Zhang Yi was also a little surprised. No wonder the regional level units can evaluate the level of mutants. It turns out that they have such detailed data analysis. What is an ability index anyway? Zhang Yi asked the intelligence system of the martial arts field. Soon the martial arts field gave Zhang Yi an answer. It is similar to a combat power index. But due to the variety of abilities, in addition to combat-type mutants, there are also many other abilities such as auxiliary and life-type abilities. Therefore, a comprehensive score is given based on the practicality of the ability. In other words, the ability index is not completely equivalent to a combat power index. Take Zhokir as an example. Her ability is healing. Even if her ability index reaches 10,000, her combat ability wouldn't be as good as that of a combat-type mutant with an ability index of 1,000. But for mutants who were also combat-type, this ability index is close to combat power. However, it cannot be completely equated with combat effectiveness, because the restraint relationship between abilities must also be considered. Anyway, Zhang Yi couldn't help asking the intelligence system of the martial arts field, "What is my ability index?" The martial arts field quickly gave Zhang Yi the data. 5,200. Hearing this, Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. Is my ability index so low? But he soon understood. The data counted by the martial arts field was still the previous battle between him and Wu Di. And during that time, he did not reveal his true strength in front of Blizzard City. So this ability index is not of much reference value to him. The two monsters below continued to fight, and the fighting wind rushed into the sky, making bursts of terrifying shouts. Zhang Yi was curious and started a conversation with the intelligence system of the martial arts field, asking about the division of the ability index. The intelligence system gave the following reply. A level 1 alpha ranges from 1 to 9, a level 2 beta ranges from 10 to 99, a level 3 gamma is from 100 to 999, and a level 4 delta is also from 1000 to 9999. Then, a level 5 epsilon is from 10,000 to unknown. These are the levels of superpowers currently confirmed by humans, with their corresponding division of superpower indexes. Bailey Chongqing and Liang Yu fought for a long time, but there was no clear winner. Although both of them held back and did not fight to the death, this result also showed that Liang Yu's potential had been greatly developed. She now had the strength of a vice-captain. As the two of them stopped fighting in tacit understanding and returned to the stands, Bailey Chongqing took the initiative to praise her. I didn't expect your strength to improve so quickly. You can already fight back and forth with me, a vice-captain. Your strength should be at the vice-captain level. To be honest, in the past, when I hadn't received any training from the region, I might not have been your opponent. Liang Yu thanked him for his modest words before approaching Zhang Yi on the second floor. Zhang Yi stared at Liang Yu with a satisfied smile on his face. He finally had a capable fighter by his side. Bailey Chongqing waved Zhang Yi from below and stated that if there was nothing else, he will go and prepare the things he needed for training. Zhang Yi then asked Liang Yu how she felt fighting against the vice-captain just now. Liang Yu replied that it was fine, although it wasn't satisfying because they couldn't go all out with real weapons. On the following day at the training ground, the 3 Heavenly God squad members, who had recovered after treatment, found Zhang Yi. Yi led the way, bowed to Zhang Yi at a 90-degree angle. Captain, please forgive us for our rudeness to you. We hope to join the operation to encircle and suppress Eclipse Moon and avenge Captain Deng and the teammates of the God Squad. Took a while before Zhang Yi spoke up. Are you guys convinced by my punishment yesterday? Yi quickly replied that they were convinced. He then took out a self-criticism letter, more than a dozen pages, all handwritten, and respectfully presented it to Zhang Yi. This is my self-criticism. Of course, Zhang Yi did not read it, but simply stated in a cold tone. The members of the Tengu team are going to risk their lives and fight for the honor of the country, so there is a high probability that you will die. If it is for victory, I will not hesitate to sacrifice your lives. Even so, do you still want to come? Some things must be made clear in advance. Hearing this, the 3 people said in unison, as long as we can destroy Eclipse Moon, we are willing to sacrifice our lives. For these warriors who have been on the battlefield for a long time, death is not the most terrible thing. The most terrible thing is that there is no chance to wash away the shame on oneself and live with regret for a lifetime. The defeat of the Heavenly God team made their once proud team a big joke. The glory attached to them in the past suddenly dimmed, so even if they die on the battlefield, it would be more comfortable for them than living like a coward. Zhang Yi finally chose to let Yi and the other 2 back into the team. After all, these 3 were also good fighters and will definitely make great contributions in their fight against Eclipse Moon. Anyway, the scene shifted and it was just as Zhu Zhang predicted. The people of Eclipse Moon never gave up on trying to occupy the Central Plains. Their retreat after the last battle was not only to heal their wounds, but to also use it as a capital to win over more helpers in launching a more grand battle. Currently, at somewhere on the Southeast Sea area, the fog was pervasive in the morning and the vision was invisible. The temperature in the air also made everyone on board feel that their blood was cold. The Tianlong pirates, specifically the 4th Division, rode into the southeastern waters in the vast fog, heading towards the most prosperous Jiangnan region. On the bow of the ship, Feng Guangyuanjin was still dressed in his usual outfit, and the abilities he possesses allows him to be fearless of the severe cold. At this time, he was holding a huge black lump in his hand. It was an old satellite phone. Although it looks outdated and does not have many modern functions, its confidentiality was extremely good, and it can even block regional-level satellite monitoring. After the call was connected, a deep male voice came from the other end. The Jiangnan district is already waiting for your arrival. Feng Guangyuanjin narrowed his eyes. Oh, so what kind of troops are they going to use to deal with us? A lot more than last time. That's really interesting. He looked back and saw dozens of ships breaking through the waves on the vast Southern Ocean, heading towards the coastal cities of the Jiangnan district. I've made quite a lot of preparations. The voice from the other end of the phone came again. If you want to win this time, you must get rid of someone. Who? Someone who has the ability to break your power of prophecy. I believe you know whom I'm referring to. Feng Guangyuanjin's eyes became terrifying as he thought of that person. If it weren't for that person, his team wouldn't have such a high casualty ratio. It can even be said that if it weren't for that person's existence, the Jiangnan region would be afraid to act confidently and rashly. After destroying the Heavenly God team, they could have marched straight in and occupied several cities in the Central Plains region. In Feng Guangyuanjin's opinion, the existence of that guy is even more difficult than the captain-level figure of the Jiangnan district. Where is he, if I may ask? Feng Guangyuanjin questioned with narrowed eyes and a polite tone. The voice on the other end of the phone sneered. Don't worry, I will help you get rid of him. Next, you need. Feng Guangyuanjin listened quietly to the man's words. The smile on his lips became more and more intense. It sounds great. Thank you so much for providing us with these necessary information again and again. It's just that I have always had a question. He narrowed his eyes and asked meaningfully, who are you and why do you keep helping us? Could it be that you are also an enemy of the Jiangnan region? There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment. The man's voice sounded again. Does it matter? You won't trust me completely, and you will consider the truth of the information after verifying it yourself. But one thing is certain. You and I have common interests in dealing with the Jiangnan region. The call immediately ended after that. Feng Guangyuanjin suddenly burst into laughter, and this attracted the attention of the captain of the 4th Division, Canute. You seem very happy. Feng Guangyuanjin turned around and replied with a smile. Of course I'm happy, my friend, because I have great news to tell you. This time, you can make a fortune, as long as you change the direction you are heading. The target of your pirate group has been changed to Tianhai City this time. I need you to help me get rid of a troublesome person first. Canute looked at him with a gloomy face. You want us to deal with a troublesome person? Feng Guangyuanjin put a finger to his lips. Don't be nervous. It's a little tricky for us wanderers, but it may not be for you. Besides, you should know how rich Tianhai City is, right? As long as you deal with him, all of that resources will be yours. Canute smiled at this news but still warned Feng Guangyuanjin. Ronin, what you said had better be true. If I find out that you are plotting against me, you will never travel by sea again in your life. I won't dare. Feng Guangyuanjin spread his hands, but a trace of disdainful ridicule flashed in the depths of his eyes. Now, as long as we follow Mayumi's guidance, we can avoid the navy and land safely on the other side. When that time comes, please plunder whatever you want, for half a month, in order to prepare for the next mission to encircle and suppress Eclipse Moon. The entire Blizzard City has put the core of all its work on this. So on the same night in that very day, the Defense Department of the Combat Command Center suddenly got the news of Eclipse Moon's reappearance. Zhang Yi was sleeping when the sound of his satellite phone immediately woke him up. He has always slept lightly, and a little movement can wake him up. After waking up, Zhang Yi glanced at the caller ID, and it showed Lan Xinqing's name. The moment he picked up the phone and answered it, Lan Xinqing told him the news urgently. Captain Zhang, the enemy is coming. Please lead your team members to the Combat Command Center to assemble immediately. The battle will begin tonight. Zhang Yi's eyes became sharp as he simply replied that he will be there shortly. He ended the call and donned his combat uniform. He also told Flower to go and wake up Liang Yu and Yang Xinshin. He'll be waiting for them. Not long after, the two women, together with Flower, met Zhang Yi in the dining area and was ready to leave. The Eclipse people were back, so they needed to get ready and gather at the combat center. It was time to put a permanent end to these wanderers.